I'm making sure my volume is working right now. I'm making sure my volume is working right now. And we are good to go. So yes, this storm is moving to the south and southwest. Kingsville is the worst of the storm right now. So right there through Bishop and Kingsville. Now this area, especially Bishop, Driscoll, Petronila, I believe you're out of the storm. Yeah, so you got the strong wind that came through with the outflow boundary, but you've missed the heavy rain, you've gotten some lightning. I'm naming these cities because back in May, we had a pretty strong squall line that went through the area, and that squall line did produce some big damage. This storm does not show any signs of that squall line that we saw earlier in May, right? So I just want to emphasize, while this is a severe thunderstorm warning, you've got alerts on your phone. We're going live. We have meteorologist Hope Bolin in for Chief Meteorologist Alan Holt this evening. I have come back to help out with the weather coverage because we know that this area, is hit hard, and I want to make sure that everyone is safe and understands what's going on. So we are doing team coverage this afternoon because these are severe thunderstorm warnings. And this morning when I was covering these storms, I don't have the lights turned on. This morning when I was forecasting, right, a lot of the data showed the storms coming in a lot later. In fact, there was no model this morning that showed the storms this early. And so to be honest, I was a little shocked by the exact timing of the arrival of these thunderstorms. And I'm sure many of you were as well. They're really about 1.5 to 2 hours earlier than I expected. And so they are strong. I did mention really strong wind gusts this morning. In fact, we're talking 60-mile-per-hour winds. So right now, if you're joining, thank you so much for joining. I hope everyone is safe. It is currently 3:29 p.m. We are definitely watching for tornadoes. Let's look at the reflectivity, but I've been looking at this while I was on my way in, and I didn't see any signs of rotation in this storm. There's definitely an updraft. All updrafts do rotate a little bit if they're going to be strong, and so right there over the Kingsville area, you do see some darker reds on the right side and some lighter reds on the left side. But that is not a couplet. We're not seeing the green butting up to the red, and so that is a good sign. I'm not concerned with this velocity scan. Let's back it up a little bit, right? This is definitely right here, the initial, so just at 3 p.m. That's when the initial downburst, or I don't know if it was quite a downburst, that's a little aggressive to say, but the initial gust of wind moved through Kingsville right after 3 p.m. And then you do see this would be the updraft right here north of Kingsville at 3:17. And right now the updraft and downdraft are really right over Kingsville, and this is where the strongest winds are. Again, I don't see any signs of tornado. Us, the National Weather Service, we are all working as a team to keep an eye on that. Tornadoes are not in the forecast today. We don't have quite enough. There is some weird wind shear because of boundaries colliding. And so if that was enough wind shear to create a tornado, it would be very, 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 very brief. And so I just want to emphasize, I'm not worried about tornadoes, but because Anna brought it up, I'm just talking about the potential and going through my thoughts live for you as my thoughts are coming into my head. So I want to emphasize no tornadoes. This is a severe thunderstorm warning. The rain and wind is bad. That is what Anne Ruiz Fanning just said. So yes, if you are reporting anything, noises, rattling, how strong the wind is, what it's blowing around, please don't look out your window while the wind is at its worst. That can be dangerous because windows can break, but we do want to hear your reports when it is safe. And so I'm trying to query, I need to turn off the thunderstorm watch box in order to query how strong these winds are. So we are getting readings of 50 to 60 miles an hour. So this 59-mile-per-hour wind reading on the velocity scan does categorize this as a severe thunderstorm. That is 50 knots. 50 knots might be 58 miles per hour, but that is at or above 50 knots. And so that is why the National Weather Service is warning this storm. It is for wind and gusty wind. Now remember, the storm that it missed Kingsville for the most part, but it went through Alice, Driscoll, Petronila, Bishop. This storm was producing, that storm from May was producing 90-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So that's just a perspective of the difference in the wind. But this is strong enough where you would want to be indoors, away from windows, just to prevent any possible debris breaking the window. Mobile homes or RVs will shake a little bit, may get moved around a tad in 60-mile-per-hour winds, but we're not talking turning over, totally getting shifted off their foundation if they're secured properly at 60 miles per hour. But that does happen. That happened in Petronila with that earlier storm once we get 80, 90-mile-per-hour winds. But 50-mile-per-hour winds were okay. Feels like 115 in the valley. Yeah, this boundary, it's essentially an outflow boundary from the thunderstorms that were in the Dallas-Fort Worth area this morning. And that outflow boundary has just blown through the coastal bend. Let's look at our temperatures. So again, if you're just joining, I'm meteorologist Carly Smith. Chief Meteorologist Alan Holt is off today. I worked this morning. Hope Boland is also in. We're doing team coverage on this event while the warnings are up. And so we do have a severe thunderstorm warning. Let me go back to the radar. Severe thunderstorm warning is for the Kingsville area until 3:45. They did end, so if you're in Robstown or Driscoll, Ben-Getty, these areas, anywhere in between where I just said, you are no longer under a severe thunderstorm warning. So that's where the warning was first issued. Now the storm is drifting south, and we do have some heavy rainfall and lots of lightning there south of Driscoll. And so you're pretty much done, Driscoll. Your cape, your environment is stabilizing behind the storm. And so it's areas now we will be watching Fremont. That's where a new storm is popping up. I would be watching this, and this storm just off to the east there of Falfurrias and south of Rivera. This is where the new development is, where the new updraft may be popping up that's going to kind of take over the juice and likely weaken the storm in the Kingsville area. That's just how this style, it's very pulsy, of thunderstorms is. And what I think happened is you don't really see the outflow boundary like we do sometimes on our radar imagery. Not outflow boundary, you do see the outflow boundary. What I meant to say is you don't see the sea breeze quite like we do sometimes. But what I want to show you is that we have that storm pop up right as the outflow boundary is approaching. So the storms over the Orange Grove are just really east there of Orange Grove in San Patricio County, north of Robstown. They're weakening at this time. Then I believe it's the sea breeze interacting with that outflow boundary that helps fire up that thunderstorm there south of Robstown. This is the one that first got warned as a severe thunderstorm. It popped up fast because our environment is juicy. We're warm, we're humid, we have a lot of cape. And so the main line is way over here and it looks like nothing. One, we don't have radar data in the middle of the Gulf. So this is the Corpus Christi radar and the Houston radar and maybe the Brownsville radar, how far it can reach, which is about at the edge of those storms, right? But this is the initial batch of storms. And it really weakened as it hit water because the water is cooler than the land at this point in the day. Now our water is pretty warm right now, but it's cooler than the land. So that stabilized the line of storms initially as it went from hot to cold. And the area over the coastal bend is juicy. It's warm, it's humid, it has a lot of cape. And so the coastal locations that are a little bit more humid, are a little bit, tiny bit cooler because they're more humid and there's more water interacting with it. We missed the rain. But just far enough inland as the sea breeze met that outflow boundary, we have the storm that really popped up there over the Kingsville area. So if you're just joining, I'm meteorologist Carly Smith. It is now 3:37. We have a severe thunderstorm warning that is until 3:45 on this Monday afternoon. This is Monday, August 4th, 2025. Severe thunderstorm warning is until 3:45. for now. We have marine warnings as well. That outflow boundary has been gusty for everyone. So I wanted to take a look at the temperatures, and I wanted to take a look at the wind. So right now, look at the temperature in Kingsville as the storm went in, dropped, right? So we've got what you see, the light green, that's all just like ground clutter because I have the radar scanning too low and interacting, picking up very, very, very tiny particles. But it does help you see some of the additional outflow boundaries, and you can kind of see the sea breeze right here. Right here, right? Where that new storm's popping up right here. Look at how it's 101 in Falfurrias right now. I don't think I have Brownsville turned on with this. Someone said the value is like 100 something earlier in the comments, but look how temperatures just plummet there in Kingsville as the storm enters. So it was 98 and then the storm enters and it's 79. Corpus Christi, let's see how far back we can go. Corpus Christi may not have reached 100. We'll have to see the official report when it comes out closer to 5, but it was 99 degrees at 1 p.m. Then the outflow boundary swung through. So this line, this dark green line you're seeing on the map, right here, this dark green line, that's the outflow boundary. These kind of wavy lines, it's not an organized sea breeze right now, but this is kind of the sea breeze trying to get organized, but it's more messy. But yeah, right here is where the outflow boundary is. This is the initial severe thunderstorm. And then we have a new one pop up there a little further south of Kingsville. This one is starting to look pretty juicy there between Falfurrias and Sarita. But look at that temperature, 83 in Corpus Christi, 76 Robstown, 86 Alice. So Alice really just got some rain-cooled air, but hey, at least you're in the 80s and you're stable now. So you're not going to see the thunderstorms like we're seeing a little further south where there's still more cape and convection that is going to be available because of the energy that's available in that area. Crazy to see the dust and the gust of wind. Yeah, that kind of surprised me, to be honest. I should have known better. These outflow boundaries that form on MCSs like this one that originated in Dallas, they can be strong. And so, yeah, the gusty, dusty wind, it kind of threw me off guard a little bit, but it was kicking up dust for sure and blowing things around. So let's look at those peak wind gusts. I also see reports of rain totals. I won't have exact totals, but I can get radar estimates pretty quickly. But right now we're only getting a peak reading of 40 miles per hour in Kingsville, where the worst of the storm is. But this is from the air station. So this is from Naval Air Station Kingsville, which is on the right side of the town. The stronger winds are definitely on the left side of the town. And I think I can switch those on. It won't have the right color table on at the top, but I can change this to show velocity. So right here, it's weakened quite a bit, but we have velocity that is 40 miles per hour. It was weaker on the right side of the storm, strongest right at 324, and still is producing some gusty winds a little bit further to the south right now. So the strongest wind right now, let's see, Falfurrias is right here. This is 281 and 285 where that meets. It is north and east of Falfurrias. The gusty wind is starting to approach 285 associated with that thunderstorm. The gust front itself, or the outflow boundary, it's really chugging along right along that storm. It's approaching Falfurrias. So you've got 30 mile per hour winds right now in Falfurrias. You have the thunderstorm that's popping up along the sea breeze out ahead of the gust front. And then we have Corpus Christi, which is reporting no gusty wind, or I don't have that that location turned on, but I believe if it's not getting a gust, then it's not reporting one. But Flower Bluff got up to 36, Rockport 41. These along the coast, they were all these gusts. So we are taking a look at the wind gusts now. I was looking around further south. The gust front isn't quite toward Falfurrias yet, but it's approaching. It's on the north side of town. So if we zoom in, here's town. That looks scary. That's radar clutter. Don't get too excited by the reds and the greens there. But we zoom in, and this is going to be the streets of downtown Falfurrias, and the storm is north of there. Let's see how far north. And again, this is a lot, so 7 miles north of Falfurrias, and let's see how fast the winds are. So 41 miles an hour, which is below severe limits. So if everything checks out and I don't find a wind gust that's over 55 miles an hour, closer to 60 miles per hour, I believe 58 is the criteria, but if it's close, you'll get a warning for it. Let's turn the warning off. Strong thunderstorm for Duval. Special weather statement for Fremont. So we'll see how these updates keep going. "50 miles an hour. We want it to be well, we don't want it to be 58. But in order for it to get the severe criteria, the severe warning, 58 miles per hour is that criteria, give or take a little bit, because it's not an exact science, right? Our measurements aren't always exactly where the strongest winds are. The radar is looking at all kinds of junk in the atmosphere. So it's not an exact science, but it's a really good science. And so right now, all the signs I am seeing is the storm is below severe limits. If anyone has had any damage, please let us know in the comments. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on another streaming platform, let me see if I have the number to call here. I don't know if I have it in this show or what I titled it. So what you're looking at, if you've just joined, is our velocity imagery on what was once our radar and gust imagery, reflectivity and gust imagery. So that's a little confusing. I should have left it on something better. Here we go. It is in that show somewhere. It's called Haymarket, but this is how, if you have any damage, hopefully you don't. That is the goal with any weather event, is that it is much lower in criteria than we're warning for or advising for. We don't want anyone to have any damage. But if you have damage, or you have cool video or cool cloud pictures, please send us your videos. It's 361-855-6397. If you have normal texting, that you text your friends and send pictures to your friends and family, you can send that to us as well. 361-855-6397. It comes in just like a text message, so we can reply to you and only you, and it's great. Make sure you leave us the location, the time, estimated time if you don't know the exact time, but the location and the time and what you think you're seeing are all important for us to kind of verify where things are, and also help the National Weather Service, because we'll pass this along to them if there are any major damage reports that we think they need to know to verify their meteorology and their forecasting as well. Okay, let's talk rain. I've been not dodging that question on purpose, but I have gotten distracted. So the warning was until 3:45. I'm distracted again. The warning was until 3:45. Guess what? The warning has expired. So if you've been watching or you're just now joining in, the warning was expired. I am going to go through and I'm going to look at the rainfall totals, and I'm going to look at Futurecast all before I sign off. But if another warning, we do have some marine warnings. Baffin Bay is under a marine warning. So the worst of the wind has already moved through Baffin Bay, but if you know anyone that's fishing in that area, check on them, make sure they're okay. Because these were some pretty strong winds along that gust front, and it stayed pretty gusty behind the gust front as well. Let's look at the current gust. Again, don't let me forget rainfall and Futurecast before I say goodbye. But here's our current wind and gust. So this is as the storms were moving in. We got up to 41 miles per hour, sustained 25, sustained 31 right along the coast. Got up to 30. Corpus Christi should have a 45 mile per hour wind gust. Robstown 37. Alice 47. Right now, Kingsville was at 40. Now it's dropped to 23. Falfurrias, your winds are just starting to pick up. So you've got 30 mile per hour wind gust, 24 miles per hour sustained. the gust front is just moving through Falfurrias, and the thunderstorm is approaching that area as well, but weakening, and so it is no longer severe. That is the good news. All of our severe thunderstorm warnings have expired, which means there are no active severe thunderstorm warnings now at 3:47 p.m. on this Monday, August 4th, 2025. I do want to show, just a close-up real fast, this is moving through Fremont. The National Weather Service did issue a special weather statement for Fremont. I would say this storm, if one was going to pop up and be severe, I would bet on this one that is already south of Falfurrias. It may drift west a little bit, but I think the worst of it will miss Falfurrias. Encino, be on the heads up for if this storm does get stronger, but otherwise we, again, currently, we have no severe thunderstorm warnings, which is great. There is a marine warning for Baffin Bay, but that should be expiring soon or canceled soon. I would bet this is until 4 p.m., so we have 12 minutes or so. Okay, rain. Rain, that has been asked. If you're still watching, thank you for sticking with me. This is rain over the last, it says last hour, but actually it's the last 3 hours. Let's just do 24 hours just to make sure we don't miss anything, if it loads. So this will be all from today because, well, we saw some rain yesterday. Maybe I'll adjust it. I want to be as precise as I possibly can, so we're going to do 12. So this is the last 12 hours, so this would be from 3 a.m., which we did not have any rain at 3 a.m. I keep stepping on the mic cord because I am anxious and I move my feet around, and hopefully it sounds okay still. But again, these are going to be radar estimated, so it's not exact. Driscoll 1.6, 1.1, between Driscoll and Kingsville, 1.7 in Kingsville. If anyone has any rainfall totals, if you have a rain gauge, post that, send that to the number I posted up earlier, or just post it on my Facebook page, Carly Smith WX, or on this Facebook Live. We will take it there as well. Portland, just north of Portland, 1.5 miles, 1.5 inches, excuse me. And then up toward Refugio, and in Refugio County, we had 1/2 inch to 1 inch in the heavier pockets, and a few tenths of an inch outside of that. So Corpus Christi, unfortunately, when it comes to rain, we missed it, but at least we didn't have the risk of severe weather in Corpus Christi. While it did get windy, though, we had 30, I believe it said 45-mile-per-hour wind gusts there at the Corpus Christi International Airport. Okay, this, if I titled it right, is the rainfall total since midnight. Kingsville has either not updated or I didn't title it right. There we go. So you have the radar estimated behind it. Again, Naval Air Station may not have gotten much rain, which would be very unfortunate, but there are other readings in Kingsville, so we'll see if any of them got in on the rain. Robstown picking up 0.02 inches. These are your official climate sites that the National Weather Service observes and keeps record of at the airports and around the area, and so most of us seeing 0, unfortunately, but Margarita, right now, Kingsville is no longer under a severe thunderstorm warning. Kingsville is still dealing with some heavy rainfall. On the west side of town, it saw more rain and more wind. You still have lightning over there, but the dark red, the heavy rain, the risk of some strong wind gust, and additionally the risk of any hail, which has been minimal, is moving south of Kingsville now. So you're still seeing a little bit of light rain and some lightning in the area. Remember, lightning can happen outside of the thunderstorm, away from the rain, so it does not have to be raining for lightning to strike. That is unfortunate in dry climates, but that is the case. So you still could have some lightning as well in the Kingsville area. But most of the heavy rain has now drifted south toward Fremont and is going to continue to move south. So Falfurrias will get in on some of that rain. This storm is growing. So as I've been mentioning, is the storm that is already south of Falfurrias, which means it will not move through Falfurrias, does have the best chance, I believe, of becoming to that severe limit. Darla, this came from Dallas this morning, and it moved faster than I anticipated. So if you felt a little off guard, I was a little off guard by it. I was expecting storms in my initial forecast closer to 5 o'clock this evening. So they're a little early. They were booking it through the afternoon as the sun heated up. And I should have known that. That tends to happen. MCSs or squall lines, they tend to speed up with more sunshine and more heat. And that's exactly what happened. So let's show the loop, shall we? I said a Futurecast. I'm going to show that before I sign off as well. So we're going to do the last 12 hours. So when I got to work this morning, this is where the cluster of storms was. This is where the storm energy was. It's far away. Let's see how far away that was. So we were nearly 400 miles away from any storms. Then the storms were moving fairly fast, and then the sun rose, and they picked up speed as they also weakened, which is a trend as well. The storms, you can tell, start weakening as there's less rain along the leading edge. This is a squall line or a bow echo right through here. So from Victoria to Galveston and Houston, initially this was the strongest part of the storm. And everything really started, and by this, where I drew that white arrow that's hard to see, but that's going to be, Matagorda Bay is to the left of the arrow. So this is actually probably kind of near the city of Matagorda, probably still west of Surfside. But in that area, this is the area Beryl actually made landfall a year ago around the 4th of July. But long story short, it intensified to kind of maturity as the bow and arrow, got really curved, right? And so the strongest winds are at the peak of this bow. But a little caveat in the forecast is as this moves through, it's now approaching water, and the water is cooler than the land. And as that happens, these storms weaken a bit. But over Corpus Christi and the coastal bend, our air is hot. It is sunny out ahead of this line. So this is 143. We have sunshine across Nueces County, Alice, Freer, Benavides, and all areas south of there. Our temperatures are cooking up to 100 degrees or more, and the atmosphere is ripe for storms. There's a lot of convective available potential energy. We like to call it CAPE. That is one of the measurements we really look for when forecasting storms. I wish I showed the CAPE on First Edition this morning, but I was preoccupied with how hot it was going to be and the chance of rain. I mentioned the storms that do develop have a chance of some really strong wind gusts. But again, the timing at the time, all of the model data had it moving in closer to 5 o'clock. So this is earlier than I anticipated, and I'm going to be honest about that because it's true. But someone asked, hi, it's getting dark in Corpus Christi. The clouds are growing still and interacting with the shear. So there is a little bit of rain here. This is wind shear. So that means that in the upper levels of the atmosphere, we actually have some wind that's pushing the rain this way, even though the storms themselves are moving this way. Oh, and by the way, at the surface, our wind is a bit southeast. So a lot going on to really kind of help make these storms happen, but also potentially pull the storms apart. And it looks like the wind shear out of the southeast, which is going to be what is in between the two areas of high pressure. I showed this on First Edition. I didn't finish my story, but we'll get back to it, of how this happened. But this is part of it. Just a little tangent to get back to where we were. Darla asked that. How's the weather to Alice? So Alice, I believe, is already north of the rain. So you've gotten cooler, and that's about all you're going to see is wind and cooler weather. So actually, that shear might be more so from where the bottom of the storm or the mid-levels of the storm is getting pushed to the southwest. I might have had that drawn backwards. Let me look at the satellite imagery, the better one that isn't on our weather computer. And if you're curious what that is, I like to just type in COD Go 16 on Google, and then it should be College of DuPage, Next Lab Satellite. And I love this. It is my favorite way to view the satellites, the GOES satellite, specifically GOES 16, or GOES, well actually it's GOES 19 now. That's crazy. I forgot we sent up a new satellite. Interesting. Anyway, I'm trying to look at this year. You can't see it. Yeah, the storm is moving more southwest. And so that is that initial shear that's really pushing it southwest versus directly south. I don't know where the rain spreading over Corpus really came from, the direction of the storm, I guess, but let's go back. So now we're in the high. The wind is actually going this way. It's actually going this way. So from the northeast to the southwest. And that's the direction the storms are moving, actually, which is fascinating because it's the upper atmospheric energy that's pushing it. You see the energy starting around, and this actually might not be the one I edited this morning, but our pattern has been stuck in this similar situation where we're seeing the two areas of high pressure weakening. And so through Tuesday morning, we have a chance of storms because we still have that yellow, the storm energy, and the break in between the areas of high pressure. You see the high pressure really kind of expanding and growing. There's still some weakness there on Wednesday morning, but we start to see less of a weakness and more of the high to the south or to the west growing. And that starts to weaken our rain chances. But look at this. We get another break, another weakness. And that probably, I think Friday is too early for a big change in the weakness. But I would say by Saturday and especially Sunday, I need to adjust this high. It actually weakens and moves west a bit. And Sunday is looking like our next best chance of rain. But anyway, it's these weaknesses in the high, and it's the mid-level winds that are steering it. And it is essentially just keeping it cooking over our warm and humid air environment. But now that the temperatures have cooled down, air is much more stable. And so rain-cooled air tends to be stable air that we look at that. Falfurous is now 91. So a storm to the north, I still think is weakening. Storm to the south, the Falfurous, I think that's the one that's going to get going and continue to move across the rest of Brooks County to the south and southwest. But anyway, again, if you're just joining, there are no longer any severe thunderstorm warnings. I'm a little weather superstitious. I'm scared that as soon as I decide to close out, that is when that storm in Brooks County may strengthen to severe status, and then I'll have to start over again. But you know, if I have to start over again, that is okay. It helps get a new audience and fresh faces and old ones as well. So it's not a bad thing to start over. But right now, at 4:01 p.m., we no longer have any severe thunderstorm warnings. I wanted to take a look at this forecast, Futurecast. This is the last thing I said I would show before I ended the live. If you've been watching this long, you know that I said that. Now we are here. We are here. The end is near. Thank you again, everyone, for watching and reporting anything, updates. David Silva's, I went into a lot of explanations of where it came from a few minutes ago. I hope you're able to hear it. But yes, it technically didn't come out of nowhere, but it moved a lot faster than I forecasted this morning. So I'm going to own up to that, and I'm going to say it. And it's here. And now that we're cooler, we don't have to really worry about storms the rest of the evening, but there may be some storms that develop along the coast tomorrow morning, and they will move inland in more of that sea breeze pop-up style into the afternoon. Anyway, here is the rain contour. So this is the model I showed this morning. Let's see if it changes. So this is our current satellite imagery. A second ago, this was way more dramatic. this is the satellite. It's a little behind. It's not as much. It updated. Let me show you the model data that I showed this morning. Y'all are gonna get a kick out of this, hopefully. Maybe not. Maybe it's just for myself. So I would have showed this one. So this is the current radar. Oh, it says it's for a specific date. Hold on. We're gonna get it. Current radar. Here we go. Current radar, what I showed this morning. Look at that. That has the storms just approaching Beeville, B County, Live Oak County. So 5 p.m. is when I started our storm chances this morning, and I had it weakening as the sun went down. Well, they arrived a little early. They were a little bit stronger because we still had plenty of convective available potential energy to help them get started. But anyway, let's go back to the latest model because it's going to be the most accurate. And you can see it initializes much better. Look at that, beautiful. It's still not perfect, but it is a lot better. And you see storms weakening across the coastal bend the rest of this evening. We get some pop-up activity that actually is a little bit further off the coast than what it was showing this morning. Let's see the latest longer range. So there we have it. The storms weakened by about 6 p.m. Someone asked about Alice. It's already to your south, so you're done for the evening. You probably didn't get that much rain. Really only Highway 77 saw any rain, and Refugio County saw a decent amount of rain as well. But here we have the storms weaken as the sun sets, and as they continue to move south. Here's the activity. May stay offshore tomorrow morning. That would be great. We don't want to impact the morning commute. We would like some rain, but we don't like it while we're driving, and it's dangerous. But as you can see, pop-up sea breeze showers are possible. That could be any time tomorrow afternoon. Tends to be more likely around 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 p.m. and then weakens as the sun sets. And then we do it again. Wednesday has a chance for pop-up sea breeze showers and storms. Thursday, our rain chances trend way down. So, no, Trevino, Amanda, nothing is coming to Alice. It's already passed through, so you've already seen the worst of it. Portland has already seen the worst of it. Thank you, Olga, for that comment. I appreciate it. We would love to get some more rain, but at least the winds were not too damaging strong. I haven't seen everyone's comments, but hopefully everyone is safe. And you have I'm ready to say it's Tuesday already. It's only Monday. It is Monday, August 4th at 4:05 p.m. and I will be signing off. That storm, hold on, let's look at radar one more time. I have a problem saying goodbye. I just do, in any situation, not when it's my passion of weather. I wanted to look at these storms in Brooks County before I leave. So what's north of Falfurrias, that's weakening. That was the initial storm. This is the new pop-up stuff that's popping up across Brooks County, the the Brooks-Kennedy County line. Let's see if there's any hail in this before I leave. A tiny bit. The gray is so hard to see on this map, but maybe the size of ½ an inch in diameter, which is nickel, maybe somewhere between dime and nickel. But overall, pretty small hail. Hail's not the big concern, wind is. So let's take a look at the wind. Okay, so we do have south of Falfurrias, you may be seeing the red and the green. I don't think that that's a tornado couplet. I think that's an updraft. Let's see what yeah, so those are two different storms. Let's see. Okay, let's circle this. delete this one. I'm analyzing in real time, so that's why I'm not talking yet. That's not even where any rain is or anything, so I think that's just a weird radar blurb. That is a scientific phrase. So that's where there's a downdraft or a gust front right in that area. This is the Brownsville radar. And only the Brownsville radar. Okay, so we had a radar update. So now we do, that's probably an updraft is what we're looking at. I haven't done this 3D scan in a while. Again, I can't say bye, I just get so fascinated. It's not very tall. It is a new storm though, and I think that's why we're seeing that little rotation signature. It's very broad. I'm not worried about any tornadoes. I'm just making certain that I can continue to say that. Right now I'm about 95% certain. Yeah, that's way too broad to be anything twisting at the surface. There we go. This is what I wanted. I think that that is just picking up where the winds are twisting. Like I said, where the outflow boundary is at one layer in the atmosphere. Actually, the outflow boundary would be going away from the radar. Will be going toward, sea breeze really isn't toward the radar, but we do have some different levels. So at the lower level of the atmosphere, it looks like we do have some winds going toward the radar, which would be more northeast, whereas at the surface we have the sea breeze, which is more southeast. And then in the upper levels of the atmosphere, we have more of a southwest wind. That is, again, really, I guess the 10,000 feet is our upper level, because that's what would be going toward the radar. No, I said that backwards. What's going toward the radar or away from the radar is our upper level winds we talked about with the velocity. But anyway, regardless, this looks like a messy blob, but to me, it shows that there's just different, there's some wind shear, right? But even with the green, like reaching the surface right here, like that is not a sign of a tornado. That is just a sign of an updraft forming. That's why I like and also dislike a little bit live, because you see the analysis live, which is like cool, but also lowers my confidence level a little bit because I don't have time to analyze and then project it to you, you know? You get to see all of the raw, vulnerable side of meteorology, which I guess hopefully is cool. I've said I was gonna leave it like 1,000 times now, so I'm working on that. But yeah, I would argue that that little vorticity signature, all that is showing is the potential of some updrafts interacting with the different winds and the different levels of the atmosphere. I don't believe we have any rotation in terms of tornadoes to be worried about. This is all south of Falfurrias now. Encino, you are in the path of this pretty strong storm that I've been watching this whole time. It is not severe at this point in time, but I am going to go ahead and log off. And if it does for some reason become severe, I will start again. Thank you so much for watching this live update. I'm meteorologist Carly Smith, signing off.